What's going on, everyone? It's Adam here from No Shelf Space, and we're back with another Everything I Hate. And in this video, we're talking about everything I hate about Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. Now, this is a game that I've played for well over 35 hours. I've played it a ton. I've done most of what there is to do in the box. I'm working through the third campaign. You get one paid campaign per box. So there's the main box, Spreading War expansion, Journeys in the Dark expansion, I think it's called. You get one free campaign per. Each campaign's maybe 15 hours, 12 to 15 hours, I would say, per campaign. And so I played it a lot. Like, I think I've played it a lot. I think the proof is that I've played it a lot. And I've gone as far as getting some paint done on miniatures as well. Not me personally, but, you know, we're dedicated enough that my father-in-law has been doing some painting. And so I don't know if you can see, but like we have the Witch King here. And I can show this off because we're getting into what I hate about the game. So that's pretty cool. Not like a ton of detail on these ones, not compared to like my Shatterpoint figures that he's painted, but you know, a lot of stuff. But this isn't what I like. This is what I hate about Journeys in Middle-earth. Now, Journeys in Middle-earth is a campaign-style game where you and a couple of friends are going to be moving your characters across two types of maps. There are journey maps and there are battle maps. In journey maps, you're going to be using tiles laid out on the table, and your characters are going to move across these tiles, and you're going to add more tiles and kind of build out this map of objectives and enemies and places to investigate and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Battle maps are big grid. It's grid based, and you'll be placing stuff down on the grid like walls and things like that. And you'll be moving your figures around. It's just a little bit more enclosed and tight. It does use an app, and maybe that's my first complaint about the game. It's app driven 100%. So unlike something like Star Wars Imperial Assault, which comes with a campaign book where you can actually just use the book and play the game, if you don't have the app, you cannot play Journeys in Middle-earth. The second issue I have with the game is that if you do buy just the base game, you're only getting one campaign for free with your purchase. And it's not a cheap game. I mean, I bought it a little bit more expensive because it was hard to find by the time I purchased it. I want to say it was $132 for the main box, which comes with a ton of stuff, to be fair, but it only came with one campaign, and one campaign is maybe 15 hours. And when you're spending that much, I think maybe you should get a little bit more in the box. You can buy a second campaign for the main box and then a second campaign for each expansions for a total of 6. The additional campaigns you're going to buy are probably a little expensive, even at $9.99. So if you pay another $10, you can get another 15 hours, 12 to 15 hours of content. But it's, you know, you're just paying more money. Another thing I really hate about the game is that the tiles are pretty small, and the area within the tiles is pretty small. You might be playing the game and you might be adding, you know, a ton of different tiles across the map. And as the game goes, you're going to be adding more and more and more content. And as I'm talking here, I'm trying to open up a box and show you while we're live. I don't like to do a lot of editing. Who wants to do a lot of editing? Ugh. Let's get the box is huge, by the way. Like, look at the size of this sucker. Like, it's a big box. There's a lot of content in here. All right, here we go. These are what the tiles look like. Double-sided tiles. And as you can see, this is like 2. Right here is 2. So there's a spot here for characters, and there's a spot here for characters. Same on this one. This one's 2. Some of them are even bigger than that. They'll have 2, 3, 4 spaces. But the figures themselves, and I'm going to grab a figure here and show you, you know, if you're playing with 4 friends, because you can play up to 4 players, like here's the size of the figure, here's the size of the little tile. So right now that's one figure on the tile, and I think comfortably on this tile here you could go 1, 2, 3, 4. The problem is that it's never just going to be maybe all of you on a tile. You're going to be adding enemies, and the groups of enemies can end up being quite large. And so you're putting characters off the map, kind of beside the tile. It's not a huge deal, and yes, it's nitpicky, but it's worth noting that as it gets busier, these tiles are almost too small to hold all the bits that come in the game. That brings us to our next problem. There's so much stuff in this game. I made this complaint about Descent. If I made a video on Imperial Assault, which I'm not gonna, but if I did, I'd say the same thing. There is so much stuff in the box. Like this is what my box looks like. Like this is baggies upon baggies of characters and their cards and everything else. That it's just a lot. It's a lot of stuff, and trying to keep it organized on the table can be a big problem. I was fortunate enough to do a little bit of 3D printing, which was a smart move, I think, for myself. So I made this little token box, little magnets on there. This works really, really well. I don't want to tip it too much. This works really well, holds all the tokens. But if you don't have this, or you don't have access to a 3D printer, these are all coming in separate bags. So you're talking about 1 bag, 2 bags, 3 bags, 4 bags, 5 bags, 6 bags, 7 bags just for these tokens. And we're still haven't talked about terrain that goes in a bag, and we haven't talked about these little standees that go in a bag to hold the banners. And then you have so many cards. I think I sleeved like 700 cards. I have it all. I have all the big box expansions. I think I've sleeved about 700 cards. There are so many cards in this game. You're always trying to figure it out. So until you 3D print yourself like a card holder, putting this game away and getting this game onto the table is an absolute mess, and it's an absolute nightmare. This is a game that requires a lot of dedication to play and pack up and play and pack up. If you just play and you leave it on the table, and maybe you can leave it on your table for a week, or you've got a board game table, so you've got the gap and you can put something on top, that's not a big deal. But if you're packing this thing up after like each session, there's like 12 to 15 in a game. If you're packing it up after each session, it's a bit of a nightmare. It's a bit of a nightmare. It's something I do actually really hate. After playing Descent, I realized that Lord of the Rings is a different experience. It is not an experience where you get to take your time and work through what you're seeing on the table. If you don't know anything about Descent's a similar kind of game where you're using miniatures on grids and you're moving them around. The thing about Descent, though, is that you kind of get as much time as you want to finish a campaign. There are moments in the game where the game kind of tries to push you along, but in most situations, if there's a chest, a bookshelf, and a lectern in a room, and there's no enemies there, you could probably spend a turn or two investigating all that stuff before you move on. That is not the case in Lord of the Rings. In Lord of the Rings, you gotta move because there's a threat tracker across the top, and it's going to force you to keep moving and keep moving. And it's going to be a little bit of risk and reward. Do you go for an objective, a side objective, and maybe get a cool item or a steed or something like that? Or do you kind of focus on your end goal? Because that threat tracker continues to climb. As it climbs, it's adding new enemies on the map, and those enemies keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. There's really not a ton of opportunity for tactical gameplay. Once you kind of get into some of these scenarios, you better get your objective done and just move and avoid enemies or do what you got to do, because you're going to leave a lot of stuff on the table. Now, does this maybe push people to replay the game? For sure it does. And maybe that's what they're hoping you'll do, is play it again and try something different. But it's not my favorite way to play a game. I love most of the systems in play. I think the card system for battles is amazing. It's way better than chucking dice. The miniatures the quality's great. The actual gameplay loop of upgrading equipment, getting trinkets, it all actually works really, really well. But I don't love how rushed you can be in this game, and you can be really rushed. And then it's almost like that fear of missing out syndrome where you're like, oh, I missed that. What could that have been? And sometimes it's nothing. It might be some inspiration or allow you to discard a damage you might not even have. But the fact that you're rushed is probably not my favorite thing in this game. Other than that, I don't have a lot of complaints about Journeys in Middle-earth. The app actually works very, very well. I thought it was my favorite app between Descent, Star Wars Imperial Assault, and Journeys in Middle-earth. Now, I do think Descent has overtaken the Lord of the Rings app in some ways, but I think there's still an argument to be made that Lord of the Rings is the best app that Fantasy Flight Games has released. And it puts Star Wars, I think I said Shatterpoint, but I meant Imperial Assault. It puts Star Wars Imperial Assault to shame, because that app is just terrible. But this Lord of the Rings app is really well done, so that's not going to be a complaint here. guys, this is a good experience. I highly recommend it. It's an expensive one, but if you're a Lord of the Rings fan and you kind of love playing with little miniatures, but still have that board game feel because you're putting tiles and boards on the table as opposed to, you know, just kind of moving people around like tabletop gaming like Shatterpoint. But if that's something you enjoy, Journeys in Middle-earth is probably a game you're going to want to check out. All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. There are more Everything I Hate videos on the channel. I hope you'll check those out as well. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more of this. And, of course, share the videos around. The more I grow, the more I can produce, and I really, really want to be doing that. So until next time, folks, thanks for watching. We'll talk again real soon. Goodbye.